In today's video, we're going to answer the question is, can a blockchain transaction be reversed? Hey, my name is Jeremy, and if you want to follow along my journey as I build wealth for my family, then subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you don't miss a thing. And remember, none of this is intended to be financial advice. I am merely a guy sitting in front of a computer talking to a camera. But let's get into it. I was recently asked in our Blockchain Freedom School community whether or not a blockchain transaction can be reversed. And I thought it was a valuable enough topic that I wanted to go ahead and cover it here publicly on the YouTube channel. If you're not familiar with the Skool community that we have, there will be a link in the description. Right now it is free for life, so if you get in right now, it will be free forever. It will eventually go up, but just keep that in mind. The question is, what happens to a transaction whenever it gets put on the blockchain? Can you change it? Can you get that back? If you accidentally send your funds to the wrong address, can you get that money back? Let's go ahead and get into it and talk about really some fundamental things about blockchain. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and answer the question quickly. The answer is no, you cannot get it back, but I want to explain why. So the reason that you cannot reverse a transaction is it really boils down to how blockchain technology works fundamentally, and the reason that it works this way and why we want it to work this way. And really what it boils down to at the core of it is something called immutability. Now this is a programming term, but essentially what immutability means is that things cannot be changed. Once it has been put on the blockchain, you cannot change it. And there's a reason for that, right? If we're talking about Bitcoin, Ethereum, any of these blockchains as a public ledger, you hear that term a lot, a public ledger. You can kind of equate it to like a bank ledger, right? So they're saying, okay, well, John sent money to Sam, and here's that ledger. Now, if there's an accident, the bank could go back and make that change. But it also means that the bank can tamper with that if they want to. The way that blockchain works, because there is no governing authority, it's really just the blockchain itself that secures the blockchain. It inherits something called immutability, meaning that every transaction builds on top of the next transaction. I'm going to sort of explain how that works today. And so this is my rudimentary drawing of a blockchain, right? This could be any blockchain. It could be Bitcoin. It could be Ethereum. It could be any of the other ones that are out there. They all fundamentally work the same way as far as transactions go. Each one of these larger squares here is what we are going to call a block. Really, fundamentally, a block is simply a group of transactions. And so each one of these lines represents a transaction. So this is, John sent money to Amy, and it'll have the details of how much she sent and all of that different thing. And so each one of these is essentially a transaction. And the way that this works is that as the block gets filled up with transactions, it will at some point say, okay, this block is full. Let's go ahead and write that block. What happens is it takes all of these different transactions and it runs it through an algorithm and it hashes it. It's called hashing. And essentially all that really means is that it takes all the details of that block, all those different transactions, and creates a what's called a hash. It's essentially a long string of characters that is unique to that block. So if this is the hash that gets created, it's going to be unique to this group of transactions right here. So this group of transactions is going to be represented by a string of characters. It'll be A, B, X, W, 3, 4, whatever it is. Then it's going to take that hash and it's going to combine it with the hash of the block before it. So this square right here represents the hash of the block before it. So that's what this box is. This little square represents the hash of this block. And so what happens is, every time a block gets written, it takes this block here, and it takes, which is the previous hash, it takes the hash for this block, and then it rehashes both of those into a new hash. So we'll call it, we'll make it blue. So what happens now is, if we think about this, right? So we've got the hash from the previous block, we've got the hash from this block, which is all of these transactions, and then we've got the combined hash, the hash of the last block and this block, and this block actually is what gets used in the next, and then it will go through and it will create the transactions for the next block. It will do the same thing. It's going to create a hash for all these transactions. Then it's going to combine it with the hash from the previous block, which is the blue one, and it's going to create another one. And you can see how that chain just continues on and on and on. But here's why those transactions are immutable. They can't be changed. Because you see, let's say that somebody nefarious comes in and they want to change this transaction right here. Instead of saying that John sent $50 to Amy, instead we want to say that John sent $2,000 to Amy. Well, what's going to happen if somebody tries to do that? Essentially, it's going to break the entire chain after that point. So let's say that we've got, 300 blocks past this one. Every block past it will break, because now this hash is going to be different because this transaction is different, which means that this block hash is going to be different, which means that this block is going to be different because these two combined are going to be different. And so immediately, if somebody tries to alter a transaction, it's not hard. They say, oh, no, this isn't right because this is going to change everything. So we know that is not correct, and it will just dismiss it. So that is essentially why when a transaction goes through on the blockchain, it cannot be clawed back. Now, the receiver of those funds could send it back in another transaction, but there's no way to reverse a transaction in the traditional sense of how we would typically understand a ledger in like a bank or a credit card statement or that type of thing. Again, if you have any interest in joining the Skool community, right now it is completely free, and if you join now, you will be in there for life. We're not going to leave this open for long. Likely in the next month, the price is going to kick in, and then as time goes on, that price will continue to increase as more and more people join the group, and the value in that group continues to rise. So again, check the description. You can find a link to that community. Really excited to have you in there. I hope you join. If you have any questions, these types of questions I love to answer for the community. So join the Skool community, ask it in there, or simply go down here to the comments of this video and ask your question. If you're interested in this video, go ahead and click over there, and I will see you on the next one.